Everyone, and today's talk is called Transmutation of the Energies. This is an introduction to a very wide-ranging topic. Energy is an important matter for us to consider. It is the power behind our inner work, such as concentration and the self-remembrance exercises that you've been doing. And our essence needs to have energy for us to be able to work. Our essence needs to be supported by energy, and if we haven't got any, it is very difficult. However, it is possible to gather and restore our energy, and in this talk we will look at some ways in which we waste it, and then we will look at ways in which we can balance it and how we can restore it. This topic is another aspect of the work, and part of a trio of aspects for us to consider. The first one, which we know quite well already, is self-remembrance. The second one is energy, which we're going to introduce today. And the third one is how we act in our everyday lives, and we'll talk about that one at a later date. Each week we are adding to the overview of the work, but always remember that the objective of this work is to develop our essence, is to increase our consciousness, bit by bit. If you consider any project that you've ever done, you will certainly want to be doing it efficiently. It doesn't make sense, for example, for us to have a water pipe coming into our house if that water pipe is full of holes. Or if we've got our house and we're heating it during the winter, but we leave the windows open and the energy escapes from those windows. It's exactly the same when we're working on our psychic fitness. And when I say psychic fitness, I mean our ability to concentrate, our ability to remember ourselves in the present moment, our ability to do what it is that we're doing. We don't want to waste our efforts, because as we are making these efforts, we're gathering up the focus and the strength of the essence bit by bit. So this is a project that we're working on, and we're developing something real within us. However, losing energy means that we are damaging our work, slowing down our process. It can even mean, as I've said on the text here, feeding existing egos and creating new ones. This is a problem for us in our inner work, obviously. Here we are, working away on the present moment, and we're trying to go up the vertical path. But if we keep having these hemorrhages of energy as we're going up, then we'll find ourselves just coming back down again, and maybe even going lower, because our level of remembrance will be low. We want to slowly increase our level of remembrance, bit by bit, up the vertical path. But this is not possible if we are continually hemorrhaging energy. So how do we waste our energy? The primary cause of wasting our energy is identification with life. This is in a psychological manner. When we identify with life, it means we are fascinated by it. We are completely caught up in it. We've forgotten in those moments that we even exist. We've all we see is what's on the outside world, rather like these guys here in the films. They're completely identified, completely outside, completely caught up in the film that they're watching on the screen. Their emotions are caught up in this manner, their thoughts are caught up, and all of their actions as well, as you can see from the facial expressions, are completely identified or caught up with what it is they're watching on the screen. We would say that films, work, social media, the internet, many aspects of daily life cause us to be identified and fascinated. Whenever we forget ourselves and are fascinated by something, you can be sure that we are wasting our conscious energy, our creative energy. We also waste our energy with certain beliefs and passions that we hold on to. These are areas where we expend a lot of energy, and that expenditure of energy is not related to the development of the essence or being conscious. It could be getting completely involved in a particular hobby or topic. And while there's no harm in getting involved in a hobby or pastime that we like, what's important is to be conscious doing it and not to be doing it unconsciously. Getting caught up in this way means that we can lose hours and hours of work, hours and hours of being caught up and forgetting ourselves. And this means that we'll go down that vertical path. We'll lose the level that we had. Another way in which we waste our energy is through those automatic reactions, these outbursts, these sudden explosions of reactions. Road rage, for example. You can be driving along quite calmly, and then somebody cuts in front of you, nearly causing an accident, and all of a sudden we have a complete overflow of outburst of energy. If we can get rid of this and calm ourselves down fairly quickly, then there's less expenditure of energy. But if we hold on to that feeling for the whole day, tell all our friends about it, take it home, ruminate about it, and consider it for hours upon end, then this represents a great waste of our energy. And, as we said before, not only are we wasting energy, but we are feeding certain egos of anger, resentment, rage. Another way in which we waste our energy is by having the wrong inner states. You can imagine that if we wake up on any given day in the morning, and we wake up here, and then suddenly we remember something about life or what it is we have to do that day, and it changes our inner state. So we might then start to feel a variety of wrong inner states, such as being worried, fed up, annoyed, disgruntled, anxious, miserable. We could be full of trepidation for something that we've got to do that day. All of that wastes our energy. All of those wrong inner states simply eat into our inner work because we're not remembering ourselves, and on the contrary, we're feeding those egos. The work of the vertical path is different. In the work of the vertical path, we need the correct inner state, which is the self-remembrance. Without the correct inner state and feeding negative inner states, we are wasting a lot of energy. Peace and serenity come from a change in our behaviour, working in the vertical path, not through the passing of time. We can't have those negative inner states throughout the day and hope that they'll just go away. They will go away eventually, but in this work we need to make them go away much more quickly than that. We can't afford to hang on to these wrong inner states for hour upon hour upon hour. Going up the vertical path is the correct use of creative energy. Other activities on the horizontal path where we're completely identified and fascinated, waste it. If you find yourself in a wrong inner state, try and change it with a suitable inner attitude. Just seeing life as a film, knowing that everything passes. Saying to yourself, do I have somewhere to live? Will this situation last forever? And so on. In this inner work, we can't afford to indulge in long periods of wrong inner states, long periods of feeling sorry for ourselves, for example, or long periods of feeling bored, or long periods of feeling anxious. We need to correct that, because for us now, in this inner work, developing the conscious, this goes completely against the project that we have in mind. Remember the picture of the water pipe leaking? This is how it is. Very hard. It's very hard for us to develop something real within us while we're having these outbursts of energy and even these slow leaks of energy, which you could say could be through continual, long, low-grade, wrong inner states. So let's have a look at the way in which the energy is processed in the body. We say that we have 5 centres in the body. The first centre is the intellectual centre, situated in the brain. The second centre is the emotional centre. The third centre is the motor centre, situated at the top of the spine. The fourth centre is the instinctive centre, situated at the base of the spine. And the fifth centre is the sexual centre, situated where the organs are. The motor, instinctive, sexual centre, they're all related to the spine, and so they are called the motor brain. So we have then 3 brains, the intellectual, the emotional, and the motor brain. These 3 brains all have different types of energy. The intellectual energy is different from the emotional energy. Emotional energy is different from the motor, instinctive, and sexual energy. The intellectual energy is slow compared to motor energy, for example. If you were able to drive a car, you would know that your motor centre carries out these functions for you in an automatic manner. If we were to think about what we have to do, then we would make a mistake. In the same way as someone who was typing, for example, or playing a piano, if they think about where their fingers have to go, then they make a mistake, or they miss a key, and so on. The most powerful energy is the sexual energy. This energy is the base for life. This is what we call in these classes the creative energy. It's through this energy that we were creative. And this creative energy can have many uses for us as long as we don't waste it, along with all the other centers as well. So, how can we use this information to help us? Well, knowing that the types of energy are different, that the intellectual energy is different from the emotional energy, which is different from the energy in the motor brain, then we need to work out a way of being balanced in our daily lives, not overusing one energy in particular. For example, to study all day using the intellectual energy is simply going to waste energy. It's better if we have to do an intellectual activity to be balanced about it. So, for example, after an hour, take a break and then do an emotional activity, such as maybe listening to music or walking around the garden or enjoying something of nature, something beautiful. Then, if we want, we can balance our work by going for a walk, a longer walk, or doing a motor activity, something in the house that we need to do, for example. But these three areas, we need to balance them through the day, not be overusing one or the other. You may have noticed that if you've had an emotional situation where you've been very emotional all day, there will come a point when there's simply nothing left and you've got no emotions left. This represents the depletion of the emotional center. And this depletion of these centers is what we want to avoid in this work. Any overuse of any of these centers is to be avoided because it's energy that's wasted. And this is why I'm telling you to be balanced in your activities during the day. Do an intellectual activity, but take a break. Do an emotional activity, but not excessively. And do a motor activity. And again, it shouldn't last for the whole day. We need to be balanced. You'll find that if you are taking a break in this manner, that you'll be wonderfully refreshed when you come back to do an intellectual activity. And more important, you're learning to balance these centers. You're balancing these brains. So the particular frequency of energy that belongs to each individual center stays within its sphere. We're not unbalanced in this manner. It stays where it's supposed to be. The intellectual energy is used for the intellectual center. The emotional energy is used for the emotional center, the motor energy, and so on. When we become unbalanced is when the energies get mixed and the energies get disturbed, and when our body becomes more imbalanced, and then it's much more difficult for us to have the energy to do the work. So what are the solutions? Well, as we've just said, certainly we need to be balanced in our activities. The next thing, key, is to learn to remember ourselves. When we are remembering ourselves, we are not expending energy. On the contrary, we are developing the essence. The essence is immortal, sometimes referred to as the genie in the lamp. The essence, being immortal, has a wealth of conscious energy within it. We can also transmute our own creative energy in a practice from the ancient Orient called the Ham Sah. The creative energy, remember, is the energy, that finest, most powerful energy, comes from the sexual center. And transmutation means the action or state of being changed into another form. In fact, the whole notion of the hidden anatomy is well known in the East. Here's what I mean. Even from the Greek times, we see the symbol of the caduceus of Mercury, with the serpent entwined 2.5 times around the staff. If I bring up my pointer here, what happens here is that this staff is a symbol of the spine, and these two serpents are symbols of two invisible channels in the hidden anatomy. One is called Ida and the other is called Pingala. And at each of these points, where the serpents cross along the spine, there is located a chakra. And these chakras are points of energy, points of psychic centers that can be developed by a human being. But the energy has to be creatively used, as we said. And the caduceus of Mercury is also used as a symbol of healing. Pharmacists have this symbol on their shops even to this day. And this is because using the creative energy, channeling in it up the spine, up, Ida and Pingala, is a way of providing new energy to the body, restorative energy to the body, healing energy to the body. And the symbol of the wings at the top also imply that there are powers that can come to a man or a woman when they transmute this energy. This is the power of the astral, for example, the wings, but also access to the superior dimensions. So how can we use this creative energy? How does this practice work? Well, the key is to use the imagination combined with the concentration. The Ham Sah can be used as a tool for the essence, to give it strength and to give it energy. The way it works is by forming a centripetal flow, where the energy rises inwardly and upwardly, from outside in. This creative energy charges us. It's a type of pranayama, which means it's related to breathing, and it's also related to healing. Let's show you how the practice works. So first of all, we can sit down and relax the body, and then we can imagine the energy boiling, releasing sort of golden vapours. And then these vapours rise up through the spine, up through Ida and Pingala to a point in the mid-brow, and then down to the heart. And when it gets down to the heart, we imagine that energy distributed all over the body, recharging the body. So imagine these energies releasing a golden vapour. And as you imagine that, take in a long, slow, deliberate in-breath through the nose and mentally pronounce the word Ham. Ham. See the energy rising to the mid-brow, down to the heart. And then when you've got to the heart, then in a very quick, short breath, like a sigh, you can say Sah. And then imagine the energy spreading around the body in the form of light. It's a rhythmical, controlled breathing. A slow in-breath through the nose. Imagine those golden vapours rising up through the spine, up to the central point, down to the heart, and then as you say Sah with an out-breath through the mouth, imagine the light going around the body. When done correctly with imagination and concentration, these energies really recharge the body, and you will feel a great deal of strength and eagerness for the inner work. So the mantra again is Ham Sah. So on the next slide, I've written down this practice step by step. I've also added in on this slide a petition. When you've sat down and relaxed the body, ask your Divine Inner Mother to transmute the energy into power, strength and light for the essence. This is what we want to use this creative energy for. This practice also has marvellous powers of relaxing the body, calming us down, improving our wrong inner states. And for this particular practice that I'm telling you, we're looking for strength for the essence so that it can do those things, so that it can do the inner work. Then we focus on the sexual centre. Imagine the energies heating up and releasing a golden vapour. Take a long, slow inhalation through the nose and imagine the golden vapour rising up the spine as you pronounce the word Ham silently. As the vapour rises and reaches to the mid-brow, imagine it moving down to the heart. Then, on the out-breath, through the mouth, vocalise the word Sah in the manner of a quick, short sigh. Imagine the energy in the heart then turning to light and filling the body. Restorative energy. Concentration is key to this practice. In fact, I could say concentration and imagination is key to this practice because both are very important. If we're doing the practice and then suddenly we think of something else, it's certainly less effective. Try this practice every day for 10 to 15 minutes or however you're comfortable doing it. Look to improve the practice each time. Make each breath better than the last in terms of concentration and imagination, and be natural and rhythmic in your breathing. Stay calm while you're doing it. So that's plenty for you to think about over the next week or so. Certainly we don't want to be wasting our energy now in wrong inner states or rapid automatic reactions that are going to expend lots of a high level of energy in a short space of time. So continue with your activities this week, which is concentration on different focused activities during the day. For example, we have already said brushing the teeth, getting dressed, drinking coffee. Try also then activities like throwing or catching a ball for 10 minutes, or focus on any object in your house, a plant for example, or even taste some food that you like and use that as a practice of tasting. Look to be balanced in your daily activities, as we said earlier in this lecture. Don't be excessive in either one brain or another. Balance out your intellectual, emotional and motor activities. Also, try the Ham Sah if you like the look of that practice. And certainly continue with the sit-down practices as well, which are relaxation, concentration on an object, and listening to music. And we'll talk more about these next week. As ever, if you have any questions, email us at info@htsk.ie.